Hey family, my name is Chris. I am your home gamer dad, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the journey I had with the worker placement game Everdell. This is one of my favorite games that I have in my collection. I was very happy to not only collect this, but the current expansions out, and I am waiting on the new ones that'll be coming out from the Kickstarter, hopefully early next year, give or take. We'll see what happens. There's a lot to this game, and there's a lot that I love. You've probably heard of this game. If not, then you find it pretty much in any, most top 10s out there will have this game, especially for couples, or there is a really good solo play for this. You know, this game has been around since 2018 with a ton of different stuff to it. So I'm sure that you'll be able to find it if you already don't have it in your collection already. Remember, whenever you have a game, your journey is going to be different from mine. You're going to have different experiences. You're going to have different stories that tie to it, different things that, come of it, depending on who you play with, the group you play with, things along that ways. Basically what I'm saying, as I've said before, with Everdell, your mileage may vary. So I'm going to be sharing with you guys 5 reasons why I absolutely love Everdell. And these reasons are in no particular order. They're just stuff that kind of came to my mind as I was writing things down. Remember, whenever it comes to these games, your experiences are going to be different from mine. I have particular stories and reasonings behind everything I like about this game. Maybe you out there have never heard of this game before. Not quite sure how, because this game has been around since 2018 and is now found in big box marketing places like Target. So I'm sure most people have either heard of this game, a lot have it in their collection already. They may not have all the expansions or whatever, but at least they know Everdell and have heard of it, probably have seen a video on it or something along that ways. Number 1. This is my wife's most frequently asked, can we play that game? I love my wife so much. We do so many things together. We go on trips as a family. We go to Florida, the Disney World, where we're huge Disney adults. We just have so much fun together. We love exploring and we love traveling and going to all these different places and whatnot. But she is definitely more of an extrovert, while I am way more of an introvert. A day at home, a night at home with a glass of wine or something like that is absolutely fantastic for me. Whereas for her, she likes it, she'll do it, but at the same time, she likes going places as well. It's a little harder to do that now with the kids and everything. Like I've said in other things, I currently have a 3-year-old and a 10-month-old. So being able to get out and go on a date night is very, very hard. So sometimes we have to do that ourselves in the house. And even though she's not as big into board games as I am, this game resonates with her. I don't know what it is. She doesn't really like overly complicated games, so I would never play Gloomhaven with her. I would never play Spirit Island with her. And whereas this doesn't really have many complicated mechanics, it's actually pretty easy to just kind of read the card and do what it does. She just focuses and really gets into it. She loves creating her villages. She loves playing as different critters every time, which I love these little things. And I'm going to explain that later as part of my reasons. Something about this game makes her say, hey, let's sit down and let's play this game for like 3 or 4 hours. And every game we play is going to be absolutely amazing. She was even all on board with getting all the expansions, because as much as she loved the base game, I was like, hey, there's more critters. There's more things to do. We should definitely do this. And she was all like, yeah, let's go ahead. My sister actually introduced me to this game. She had it long before I did. And when I played it with her and her fiance, I was like, this is pretty cool. This is fun. This is actually pretty simple. And I don't know, maybe there was something about the aesthetic or something like that of the game where immediately in my brain, I'm like, my wife would love this game, but I don't know when I'd be able to play with her. So we were at my parents' house. It was me, my wife, and I only had my first son at the time, because this was like maybe like a year and a half ago, maybe even longer. And then my sister was coming over to see everybody. I'm like, hey, bring Everdell. She did. And we had a time to put it down on the table and play. And whenever I teach my wife a new game, there's always a very weird, like, lull to it. I don't know if any of you have the same thing with your spouses, but you sit there and you explain to them the rules and you go through the game and you do a few rounds and everything, and you're always sitting there watching and you're looking at them and you're seeing their reactions and you're seeing their facial expressions and everything, and you're trying to pinpoint, do they like this game or do they not like this game? And it didn't take me long to realize that my wife really got into this. She loved everything about this. And it was the first time I ever heard her say, after we were done with the first game, hey, let's play again now that I know more about it so I can do better. And let me tell you, ever since then, we've played this game probably well over 40 times or whatever, and she seems to get better every single game. And no, I'm not being the quote good husband and letting my wife win. No, she seriously kicks my butt at this game sometimes. I do get in my wins. I do. Don't worry about that. But yeah, she's pretty good. But you know what? Every time we play, it's amazing. And I love it even more for it. Number 2. This was my first dive into worker placement games. The reason that one is important to me is because it started to open me up to the different styles of board games out there. I wasn't really too familiar with all the different like genres, you know, deck building, worker placement, roll and write, you know, things along that way, things that are core mechanics within games that are spread around to all the different games, and everyone sees, you know, you tell a person, hey, that's a dice drafting game. You can kind of get an idea of what you're supposed to be doing with the game before even reading the rules. And I was not aware of what a worker placement game was until I really got into Everdell and started seeing, oh, so I have all my little minions here and I send them out onto the board in order to be able to do stuff. So it was cool to actually see that type of mechanic in action. And then as I go through all the other games, start learning all the different subgenres and everything along that ways. So even though like, yay, worker placement, some people love it, some people hate it. You know, it's in this industry, it's always up and down. Sorry, guys. It's up and down in terms of what people think of it. It was good for me to start learning what types of games were out there, and Everdell was a good introduction to this specific one. And I liked it. I thought it was cool. I ended up getting a few other worker placement games since then, and it's maybe not my favorite genre of board games, but if it's in front of me, I'll absolutely play it, and I'll actually need multiple playthroughs because I can almost guarantee if I have a worker placement game, the very first game I play, my workers are going into all the obscure, weird places for reasons simply because, hey, what happens if I do this? Hey, what happens if I do this? And that first game would just be a mess, but I would know and I would learn for future games. Number 3, all of the expansions are phenomenal, and I love the way they combine together. So in a rarity for me, I actually still have the original boxes for Pearlbrook and Spirecrest, which for me, because of my limited space and, you know, things along that ways, I'm the type of gamer who will smash everything into one box and make sure it's all together. Mind you, sometime in 2023, once I get the Kickstarter stuff from the last expansions for Everdell, I'm going to get the big old box of stuff. And it's going to be empty. Well, it's not going to be empty. There's going to be a few extra things in it. I talk about that a little bit later in this as well. But all of this will be put into there, and these boxes will be gone. Now, I know people talk about hanging these on the wall for cool art and everything. Maybe I'll do that. I'm not too sure. But really what this one is these expansions are amazing. They add to the game mechanics that enhance, you know, just your overall play style. Yes, you get more points and everything, but it gives you more things to think about and gives you more interactions with the world itself. Plus, every one of these boards connects to the main board and makes a giant map that represents Everdell. And I think that is so cool. Basically, it works in the fact that this game has strong lore to it. Like, there's a part of the instruction manual that talks about, the origins of Everdell. I believe in the Kickstarter, we're going to get an entire booklet that talks about every one of the critter factions and the good, the bad, the ugly, how people survive, how the world grows and everything. And that's how these work as well. Pearl Brook is an expansion from the river. You have your river that goes through the main board where you're able to get a lot of your resources from, but then you look over to the side and you're like, oh my God, look at this cool lake over here, this giant lake with these frogs in it and these pearls. Wow, look at all these fantastic structures and everything. And you learn why that's here. Spirecrest is a journey, which is like all things like these videos are, a journey of experiences through the world of Everdell in this case. And every time you go on that journey, it's different because the seasons change and there's different weather exposures and you find different characters. The ride-ons in this particular expansion are amazing. I actually love Belfair because of its modular abilities to be able to add new powers to your critters and just kind of add and remove things that you want. It's one of those expansions that I mentioned in my Wingspan, Your Mileage May Vary, that enhances the game by adding to what already exists. Spirecrest adds a whole new section to the map. It's an entire unique, separate part of the game. Same thing for Pearl Brook. Belfair adds to the cards that you draw, adds to the creatures that you have, adds to the abilities that they have in the beginning, adds to the basic point structures for it. You don't need everything in Belfair in order to be able to have a good time with it, and you can add and remove things as you go along, and that just makes that expansion last longer. Whereas Spirecrest, you take whatever's in the box and you play it straight up that way. Still amazing. Still an awesome one. Both of these. I do love Pearl Brook. I love the pearls. The pearls look beautiful, and the standeeds in this are really cool as well. And I just like the way that Pearl Brook adds in new critters and everything to the pile. Though drawing them from a stack of like 100 or so other critters is hard. I'll usually shuffle them into the top half. So this way you can start seeing some appear in like the down in the middle, or if you draw them or anything like that. So that's I have to talk about the expansions in Everdell because they're fantastic. Speaking of expansions, number 4, I accidentally got the collector's edition of Spirecrest. Fun story. So that's definitely not a reason any of you out there will have, unless you happen to have the same exact experience that I just had with this. But so when I bought Spirecrest, I got it from a friendly local game store. Again, I don't really go to them very often because they're so far away from me. New Jersey does not have many FLGSs in it, which is super sad and upsetting. But when I got there, we had bought their last copy of Everdell because Everdell was still fairly new and they only had one left. So we managed to get the last copy of that store's Everdell. And then they also had, I think, 2 copies of Pearl Brook, 1 Belfair, and 1 Spirecrest. And I know Spirecrest was the better of the expansions, so I ended up picking this up. Now, if you just look at it, it doesn't say anything on there about collector's edition at all. So it's like, if I have Pearl Brook here, you can actually see on the bottom right there, and I dropped the berries, it says collector's edition, specifically calling out that this is the collector's edition of that expansion, giving you all of the extra critters and any of the extra things that came with it and whatnot. So this was the standard Spirecrest. I get home and I open it and I start going through the cards and everything, and I realize that I have significantly more cards in this box than I do according to the manual. I think the manual says something I should have. So it was 33 discoveries, 12 weather, 5 big critters. I didn't have that. I had more. I had all of the extra cards that was a collector's edition. And that was really weird. So I thought to myself, was this supposed to be a collector's edition? Was all the stuff in here supposed to go to a box, or was this box supposed to be a collector's edition? Because I didn't have the meeples. I didn't have the little critter meeples that went with this. I didn't have the extra saddles. Actually, no, I did have the extra saddles. I also had the cards for the critters, but I didn't have the critters themselves. So I had like the peacock and the eagle cards, but I didn't have the big critters. So I decided just for the heck of it and see, you know, what I could do or whatever. Because I really wanted the collector's edition of this because owls are some of my wife's favorite animals, and I know that they appeared in the collector's edition, not the standard. So I figured, what the hey, I got all this extra stuff. I got all these extra cards. Let me reach out to Starling Games and see what they can do for me, or if anything. I wasn't really expecting anything. I was just kind of also mostly telling them, hey, I got this standard game that came with a lot of collector's edition stuff. Just FYI. And let me tell you, those people at Starling Games are fantastic. I don't even remember who it was that I talked to, because it was a long, long time ago, but she was amazing. She listened to my story. We had a fun banter back and forth about it being such a weird circumstance and strange things happening about it and everything. But she was so awesome that she sent me all of the frogs, that the different color frogs for the collector's edition critters. So all the collector's edition critters, all of the collector's edition colors for the rabbits, and all the collector's edition colors for the frogs, and all of the additional ride-on big critters. So basically every meeple that was supposed to be in the collector's edition of Spirecrest, she sent me, and that was fantastic. So now I have the collector's edition of this. I have the collector's edition of Pearlbrook. I do not have the collector's edition of the base game Everdell, but I think that means I'm only really missing one critter, which are the black rats, and then like I think the rugworts cards. There is a particular booster that I could buy, the Glimmerwork, I think it is, something along that way. So I'll have to look it up later. But right now it's either A, hard to find, or B, stupid expensive, like 50, 60 bucks. I'm not about to do that. That probably should have been on my Grell game list, to be honest with you, to get that and finish my collector's edition for Everdell. But I don't know. I just love that story with Spirecrest, and it just makes it even more special for me, knowing that, you know, I managed to get what I really wanted out of it and interact with people that made the game. And just, it was fun. It was interesting, and I couldn't have been more happier with the results. Number 5. From the art, to the cards, to the meeples, to the board, to the Evertree itself, everything about this game is absolutely gorgeous and tells a fantastic story. So yeah, now I'm at the point where I talk about the actual components of the game, and I gotta tell you, I love the majority of them. I'm not a fan of the Evertree now. I was when I first saw the Evertree put together on the table and everything. You put the cards down here, you know, that you discard, and it's a really cool looking table presence piece there that kind of brings you more into the world by having a 3D element to it and everything. It was cool to see it at first, but the novelty of it has worn off on me. I really don't use it anymore, and it's also starting to like kind of rip in places and everything. Yeah, I could have probably gotten the wooden version of this, but I really don't care enough to do that. Plus, there are the cards that would go up here that you really can't see because they're flat. I have some stands that flip them up. I can also buy some on Etsy. I know people make them. So this way you can sit them on top of the tree. You can see the different goals that you can work for as you're going through the game. But the Evertree itself is cool, but I've gotten over it. Now, when we talk about the little critters here, these guys are awesome. I love that each one of the different animal factions in this game has their own meeple. They could have easily just given, you know, a generic pawn or something like that of a color and things like that. But no, actually seeing a creature. This is a turtle, by the way. I never knew that was a turtle. It's so weird. Like this field mouse or whatever. Actually seeing your creatures on the board and each one of them specifically designed to look like that is amazing. In the Spirecrest, they each have some saddles that go on top of the big critters. You put your little guy on that and they're actually riding it. It is so cool seeing these type of elements in the game that you just can't help it but just go, aw, and just be sucked in. Even the cards themselves, they have some great art to them. They feel wonderful. Like, this is a very nice cardstock to these. I don't think I would ever sleeve these cards because it doesn't fit in the box right now if it's sleeved, but once I get the big old box of stuff, I'll probably start sleeving these cards just to make sure that they get a little bit extra protection. But there's just so many. There's so many different cards to this, and they each do something unique and different. And it's very easy to read them as well. There's very little iconography to this game. Most of it just deals with what type of resource you need to spend in order to be able to do it. And then, like, again, just these resources are so cool. Like the little ambers here. So this is, I forget what my wife calls some of these things. So these are pink tomatoes. You know, we have licorice right here. Space rock, I think she calls these. And then pebbles are pebbles. But like, I love them. They feel good. They look great on the board. And the game itself is just so much fun to put up and just look at. And then when you actually get into playing it and seeing the life of all of these creatures, it's so much fun. It is so fantastic. And I would always recommend this game to everyone. If there was ever a point where I would get rid of this game, honestly, I probably wouldn't even sell it. I would just take all of the map pieces, maybe glue them all together, make some really cool collage out of that or something like that, because the new Leaf has the train station, which is to the far side of the board, filling in the final spot for a map extension. And then from there, you get to see Everdell in its full glory. So that's just a cool spot. And you kind of knew that that was coming. There wasn't anywhere else that you can put any more expansions unless you expand off the expansions. But it's a bittersweet thing because I can't wait for it. I can't wait to see what it brings to the world of Everdell, what it brings to my table and everything like that. But knowing that those are like the last pieces to the Everdell puzzle does make me a little sad. I'll definitely be talking to you guys about that expansion once I finally do get it next year. And until then, we have plenty to keep ourselves entertained within the world of Everdell. Until then. So down in the comments below, let's hear about your thoughts on Everdell, whether that be good, bad, and different things along that ways. Again, as I said in the beginning, most of you probably already have this game, or you've seen this game, or you know somebody that has this game. So tell me what your journey with it was like. What was your experience with this game? Did you have fun with it? Did you not score as high? Were you get frustrated? Did you really like the way that certain things are laid out? Did you find it easy to get the resources or not? You know, there's so many different ways that board games are always played by people, and I want to hear everyone's stories and their experiences with it. That's the whole point of this. So for me to share with you how I experienced the game and then to hear how you experienced it. So yeah, send me all your fun stories down in the comments below. Let me know how your mileage varied with Everdell. And again, I thank you guys so much for watching this. I hope you all have a great one out there. Be kind to each other because remember, we are family forever, gaming together with some of the coolest games ever produced. And I can only see it getting better from here. You guys have a good one. See you in the next one.